Most people mess up their first hood wrap, but in this video, we're going to show you what you need to do the 4-corner method so you can successfully wrap your hood. So what we have here is Avery Dennison's SW900's new color, and this is called Park Avenue Blue. And it is a very unique color. I like the color. Would I put it in my own car? Maybe not, but I think my spouse would like this. So what we're going to be doing is we have a red car, and we're going to be completely changing the front of it with this Park Avenue Blue. So we're going to go step by step, and what you can see in this video, you can actually apply to most of the vehicles. I want to disclose though that this vehicle is quite flat and it's pretty easy. We're not going to keep it on this car, so we do have the emblem. So if you're actually doing this on your vehicle, make sure you remove your emblems before starting. Okay. So first step is going to make sure that you're prepping the vehicle. So in this case, we have already washed the hood and it's ready to go. I'm going to just leave this on up here. And then once it's ready to go, you're going to do a final wipe down. And a final wipe down means you just use, this is a mixture of water and alcohol, and just spray it down. And you're just going to use a microfiber, a clean one, please. And then you're just going to use all sides, just making sure that all the areas are good to go. Okay. And before we did all this, we have clay barred this, we have prep washed it, we've also did car wash shampoo, decon, which is actually using an iron remover. So we've done a lot of things to make sure the surface is contamination free. So now that we actually have the surface, we are going to open up the front and we are going to basically get all the edges. I'm going to be honest, this is a demo, so I don't know if we did a great job in cleaning it. So it's going to be extremely dirty probably underneath. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to spray quite a bit of this alcohol and you're going to do edge prep. And what that looks like, this is going to be embarrassing. Actually, it's not that bad. Okay. So you're basically using the alcohol water mixture and going over all the edges. And I want to do the back side as well, right? And to make sure, because if you don't have a clean edge, it's not going to stick very properly, and that's not good. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that's good. And then we are actually going to close it down. So why am I, why do I want to close it? Why don't I just open it? Well, we're actually going to be using those edges to make a nice clean cut. So I actually want it right to the fenders, okay? So we have everything prepped, we're ready to go. And I think we can start peeling and wrapping this hood. So before I get started, one thing I do like to do is some people actually use a mister, but I get my prep solution and I like just spraying around the area. And this is on top of making sure that the floor is clean. The floor is not clean, but it should be clean if you're going to be doing it. So once you're done, that's step number one. You're prepping the surface, making sure everything is good. You're also doing the edges. You're making sure the floor and the dust has settled. Your door is not open out wide, and you're not doing it outside. So everything is inside. So number two is going to be measure and cut. And this is something I like to preach. Always, always, always measure like 4 times. Typically, if you have a car, like we work on a lot of Teslas, it is going to be a very common one. We already have a measurement on our cutter and a plotter, and basically, once we know we're working on the 3, we cut all the requirements, right? And then we also label it and we write on it, right? So in this case, this is about a 60, so rolls are 60-inch wide. We did about 65 on about a 60, 65, or I hope we did a 65, across this way, vertically. And the other thing I want to warn you is that these are going to be directional, right? Some colors are not. This color will not, because it's a very solid color, meaning it's just one color. But there are some colors like a color flow or a shift or something like that that will actually matter. So it all needs to go in the same direction. So if you look at the backing paper of the roll, you can actually see that it says Avery Dennison, or 3M, 3M, and then basically you just follow that. That's how you know what direction it's going. Some vinyl even have arrows. So it just depends on what vinyl that you're applying. So that's the next step. We already have it cut by 60 by 60 roughly, and then we're going to go ahead and lay it down. So step 3 is going to be positioning. So we got our color right here. Wow, that was okay, there we go. Looks great. Wow, that This is Park Avenue Blue, guys. It's crazy. Real crazy. All right, so this is a lot. This is a lot of film, but it's okay. So the first step that you want to do once it's good is you want to start from a corner. So I'm going to assume that you're going to be doing it yourself. Okay, and what you want to do is you're just going to tack this corner. And once you tack this corner, yeah, this is long. It's not too bad though. But what I'm going to actually do, just to make this a little bit easier for me, is I'm going to go ahead and cut some excess. All right, and that should help a little bit. All right, so now that we have this little thing tacked, and you notice how I tacked it into the pillar and not on the actual hood or anything like that. You want to just peel from a corner standpoint like this. Okay. Okay, that wasn't too bad, right? So basically, once you do that, you actually want to move it around like this. And we're going to show you something called a 4-corner tack. Okay, we're just going to release it. And what you want to do is you don't want a whole lot of material in the front up there because you notice how it's kind of sticking to the window, and the window sticks really well. But what we're going to do is we're going to just pull from this corner first. So you get 2 hands, do this right here, and you're just going to tack it into the headlight. You're going to do the same thing right here. You're going to pull it, just pull it into the fender. You see some of these lines right here. We do want to get rid of that. And you're going to make some of these adjustments, okay? So these are all okay. Okay, that's fine. And you can adjust this a little bit. You're going to do the same thing over here. You're going to do this. Great. And we got one right here. This is called a 4-corner tack method. 2 hands, pull across in a triangle like so. That's it. This looks great, right? I'm just kidding. So I'm just gonna release it again. So I'm not pulling like extreme, but I am putting a good amount of tension, and you're watching the lines basically. So when you see it was creating these lines, you just need to pull it across in that triangle, and you get rid of some of those things. One other thing that I do want to, before I even get started, is you see the line starts actually right there. So I do want to make sure that some of this is actually resolved. Why? Because it releases some of that tension that's right there, right? So I just want to get rid of some of the material. Once I know my sizing, I still have a lot of room right there. So it's not like I'm cutting to the edge or anything like that right now. I'm just cutting so that it's not so close to the edge. Okay. All right, so now I have Park Avenue Blue. Just like that. That didn't take too long. So that part is really important. Instead of just getting started right off the bat and just start squeegeeing, I mean, you could, but this is going to save you a lot of time. So whenever you're squeegeeing, it has air release technology. A lot of the newer double cast film has that technology. However, it's a lot easier if you don't trap the air down in the middle of the freaking hood, right? So what you want to do is you want to start from the middle and then start out wide, right? So same thing here, you want one motion, and typically for those of you who are starting, you do want to do something called a push. So you don't want to pull this way. This is a pull. Here's why you don't want to do a pull in color vinyl, is when you pull this way, you can actually see what you're squeegeeing. Whereas if you push this way, you can actually see what you're squeegeeing, stop, course correct, and move on. So what we're going to do is literally one motion down the center. Remember, I did not take out my emblem, so just ignore that part. Then basically from this point on, you're just going to do this. Then you can go down and go up, go down. You always want to do a 50% overlap. Once you get to this point, it can be difficult to basically know what that looks like. So you got to have that mental image of where you're actually squeegeeing. But hopefully you can see that visually as I'm doing this. You can see it kind of go down, right? Once you get to the end, about 3 inches in, all the way to the edge, you could just go out just like that. So you can see half of it is done. You can do the same thing, right? So here's why it's important to do the 4 fingers, because you're keeping the 4 fingers in the back, your thumb in the top, and by doing that, you're actually evening out the tension, right? And when you do this, notice how I'm going at an angle. Do not go straight, right? So when you do the angle, it actually, even though there's like wrinkles that come out, hopefully I make some wrinkles right here, look at that. It just kind of gets rid of it. You go here, here, and then when you see pros do it, they do it really fast. But there's no reason, it's not a fast game, okay? So you don't have to go that fast, honestly. The other thing about this, guys, is oftentimes we have started using a lot more wet buffer squeegees. So this is a microfiber. It works really well, and I think it just depends on preference and also what kind of material you're working with. But for some of them, like gloss, I tend to use like a wet buffer instead of like a microfiber. Gloss tends to scratch a little bit easier. So I think that can be a little bit safer than using like a microfiber squeegee or like a felt squeegee and so on. So you can see right here, my beautiful tea right there. You definitely want to remove that. But this is what I mean by trapping it. I mean, we trapped it because like that's what happens. That's pretty much it as far as like squeegeeing it all. You just want to make sure that you check your work. And one of the things that you could do to check your work is actually run it through heat gun. When you actually run it through a heat gun, when you do a heat gun and you have an extension cord, put it around your shoulder like this so it's not hitting the actual car. And then when you go over it, if you didn't squeegee hard enough or you missed an area, I never miss an area, so it's not going to come out. I'm just kidding. It probably will. Let me just hopefully show you. It will actually bubble up if I did miss an area. I actually missed this area right here. So basically, you're just going through and you're just checking your work basically. Here's the thing about this hood. There's almost like no stretch at all. I mean, I did pull it, but I really didn't stretch it. So basically by doing this, if I didn't do an area perfectly, it's okay though, because what would happen is you could basically get like a wrap glove, right? And then just push it down like that. A wrap glove looks something like this. It has the proper material where it glides. It's a lot smoother compared to like my rough hands, right? So that's it as far as, I mean, I know it was easy and this hood is easy. I just want to be clear about that. The next part is going to be the trimming part. And the trimming part can be a little nerve-wracking, especially for beginners. I just want to be realistic about that. Basically, when you do this trimming right here, you just want to make sure that all your edges are clear, meaning that you can see all the edges. I usually do the corners last, so I'm actually going to go and then go out wide. So basically, you just want to provide tension on one of your arm. You don't have to go. And then before you do this, you want to cut your blade. So this is actually a very short blade. I actually want a brand new blade. But for demo purposes, it's good. So I'm just going to go ahead, and typically I have about a 1/4 inch. Go, and then again I have tension all the way around. I'm using my finger as my guideline. I think this does take practice for sure. I'm making sure that I have tension. Once I get to the end, I just kind of go all the way out, because I don't need to do that area yet, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, right? Let's just repeat the process, rinse and repeat. If you're ambidextrous, good for you. If you're not, bad for you, but I can do my left hand. Do the same thing. And then once I get to a much better position, I can actually use my right arm again. I'm still better with my right, so I'm gonna use the arm that I'm much more comfortable. Just be careful you're not cutting anything underneath, right? So then once you get close, just go ahead and throw it, and then that's it. So now, to the part for all the corner area, you do want a little bit more material because you want to stretch it in. So that's kind of why I leave it like this. But I do keep a little bit, I would say like if it's like, I keep about not even a full click. And what you want to do for this part is you want to rest your blade across the opposite edge. So not on the hood, right? Because you want a little bit of excess, but into the fender. But you don't want to dig in where you're actually scratching the fender. So what you do is get a very clear ground of like where you're actually doing it. Right here, so this is your line, right? And then poke it. Again. And then what I'm doing is I'm kind of angled a little bit away. I redone my post heat. So if you're brand new and you've just never done this and this is intimidating, one option is for you to use knifeless tape, at least for the beginning, because you could just run a knifeless tape all the way through to the fender side, and then you don't have to worry about cutting anything. So I think that for beginners, that might actually be a little bit more palatable, if I'm being totally honest. But for people who's comfortable with a knife, this is what it looked like once you, this is the most satisfying part, when you actually reveal it, and then you could go all the way around. And then you just want to follow it. When you have a transition point from a bumper, or sorry, fender to a bumper to a hood, there's 3 different corners. You just want to be a little bit careful and just follow that line. So the same thing, guys. There's tension because there's bridging happening right there. It tensions out to the bumper. I stop right there. Just follow this line right here, just making sure. All right. And then just be careful when you're doing that, because if you didn't cut it, it's going to rip, right? So basically, you do the same thing. I like doing it all the way around the halfway point or so. And then basically, you use the opposite edge as well. Just work your way. I use my like middle finger right there. I don't know if you see that. You kind of glide it and slide it through. It does help sometimes when you wear a wrap glove in this process. It helps guide it a little bit better. Keep it in there. And I think for beginners, this is, again, going to be a very nerve-wracking part. But once you get through a couple, it's going to be way easier. And again, once you get to this point, put it into a ball. And then basically try to shoot it over. And don't get this. But I can tell you right now that went in. So that's good. All right, so now let's talk about the corners. We don't talk about that hoop because they went in, obviously. We're gonna go ahead and talk about how do we handle this section. And there's a lot of ways that I think a lot of people do it. And I think it's not controversial, but I feel like everybody has their own methods and their way of liking to doing it. So typically what you wanna do is you're pulling it across this way. And there's a lot of ways you can do it, but you want to pretty much stretch it outwards so that when you heat it, it conforms back into the corner. So one way you could do it is actually just using this corner right here and then just basically overstretching it and then hooking it like so, okay? And when you do that, it hooks it into that corner, as you see right there. You see that rounded corner now? And then when you heat it, it's going to conform into that. So let's try it out. That ain't going anywhere. So that's one. I'm going to show you a different method. And I think this is just finding a way that fits your model, and that changes. But I'm going to go a little bit lighter in terms of material once I get to the corner. So once I get to the corner, what I do is I just kind of round it out, just like that. And then after that, of course, I do the same thing. Okay, and then we're going to heat it up. And that's how my corner looks. Okay, the way that this hood is made is you actually don't want a whole lot of material, because once it's actually kind of like hollow inside the corner. Maybe we can show you once the hood is open, but that is one way you can do it. Now let's go to the other side. I'll show you a couple other ways that maybe other people do it. Be very careful when you're doing this part. You don't want to go too far out, right? Another way, and I like doing it the way I showed you honestly, is be very careful around the edges right here. What you want to do is you want to pull. And here's the thing, the hood is actually a very hard one to do. You could do it in different parts, like for example, the door corner, right? Because a lot easier access. You can get a really nice little access to do the triangle. This one's hard because there's not a whole lot of room right here. So what you want to do is I'm just going to pre-stretch it. And I'm just going to conform it into that area. That's all I'm going to do. I know that was kind of hard to see that, but I did stretch it out this way. Heat it up. And see how well it did. It might have not done it well. It stays, right? So that actually did well. It actually conformed into that corner. I have a little bit of excess material right here, so I got to make sure I get rid of some of that material. And then I want to use my squeegee to get rid of that. So let's go ahead and cut it a little shorter right here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go into that. Okay, and then same thing here. Want it kind of corner it out, and then after that you just want to follow the edges right here. Boom, just like that. And then of course you want to finish it out. The corner looks beautiful. And then we do want another squeegee. That's in my pocket. It's always in my pocket. And basically just making sure. And look at that, basically. All right, so now that we have all the corners done, there's only 2 corners on this one. We're gonna go ahead and open up the front again. That is very important, because if you don't do that and you open it, there might be dirt down there when it actually goes up. So you do wanna make sure that you kind of know. But look at this now, I can open it up. I could have it in a specific setting. And this is the part where you do the sealing part, which is going to be the edges, okay? So I did do the post-it earlier. I did heat all the edges, making sure. But in this step, what you want to do is use some wrap glove. Wrap glove is going to be your friend in this step. You're going to heat up all the edges. I like starting with the compound curve. I mean, not compound, but like this edge right here that kind of goes, because you actually want to go a little lighter in those areas. So you want to heat all that area. And I'm just focusing on the face of the edge right there. And all I'm doing is just kind of going through like that. All right, so you see all those things going on right there? Those are called fingers, okay? And what you want to do is just go slowly and gradually push it in. And if you do it gradually, none of those fingers are there, right? So that's really the key, is I think when you get excited, you just did your fudge hood, it's great. You go, everything. What I do is I kind of go through 1 level, and then 2 level, and the 3rd. And then you just wrap it all around, right? So you want to make sure you're heating all those edges so that it lasts for forever and ever and ever. Basically just heating it, using that wrap glove, not being hasty with it. Be patient, guys. I can't really reach that. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. Once you get to these areas, it's relatively flat, so there really shouldn't be much tension. What I would worry about are areas like here. You just want to be a little bit more careful once you get to that area. So now that we're here, okay, it's sort of closed. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the back part. Honestly, this is easier once, I'm not gonna fold it all the way over, but I will just kind of fold it over to the face of this, just like that, and then let's go ahead and open it back up. Once I do that, I can see it on the other side, and you should be good, but you can just kind of see it like this, and I already have the face. Make sure you go from that side, and then push this in all the way, and then you get a really nice edge and a clean edge, and then it's gonna last for a long time. So I wanna go ahead and put down my heat gun. Okay. Look, I know that we made it look perfect and you will have some issues here and there. So let me talk about some issues. Okay, what happens if you have a bubble in the middle of it? Well, first of all, you can actually, if it's a small one, you could usually just get it out with the little finger, just like that. And then the other thing is, what if I got dirt? Oh, well, that sucks. But one issue, I found this the hard way. Like, we've had that happen before. Look, every installer is going to tell you that they've never had a perfect install, if I'm being totally honest. And one of the things I found is like getting 70% alcohol, getting in a clean microfiber that has no lint, and basically rubbing it into the dirt, and it actually frees it up. That's actually worked for me pretty well. And then a couple other things is like when you do the edges, people will get excited, and then typically it folds over. Just go ahead and use like, and just use your nails to kind of get it out, heat it up, get it back to memory form, and then after that you could push it back down. So that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I think this is good. There's a couple areas to definitely clean up, right? I mean, like these areas are gonna be hard, so make sure that it goes all the way in. And then for certain areas, maybe you wanna trim some areas, you can clean it up, but relatively this is a pretty clean edge. It looks really good. And then on the outer side, look at this. Other than this madness that we did over here, it looks good, other than that, right? But again, we are gonna remove this. This is for demo purposes. This is the start of a roll, so we even have that, tape right there, that's fine. But that's how you wrap a hood. And I think you can apply this 4-quarter method that we showed you today, using that triangle, using some of the cutting techniques, maybe using knifeless tape if you're, again, uncomfortable with using a knife. But it's pretty much a really quick demo of how to do that. So hopefully that was helpful. If you are doing DIY projects, good luck. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. We love making edutainment content around this. So click on that subscribe button and we'll see you later.